Hello, welcome to Revenant Reads. I'm Vin, and this is another edition of Fresh Red Kills. So, Fresh Red Kills are the videos where I talk about the books I have recently finished reading. And I'm talking about two that I read in October, and actually I just finished this one 2 days ago. So we're going to be looking at Necessary Death and Heavier Than Heaven. So, talk about this one first, because I read this one first. Read this for October spooky season. One that I picked up, I think, pretty cheap off of Hamilton Books like last year. So I wanted to get to this. So this is by Grosso and Preston Fassel. Necessary Death: What Horror Movies Teach Us About Navigating the Human Experience. So this was interesting. I wasn't quite sure what to expect from this. So this is more about like mental health and, sort of like a sort of self-help, a little bit of spirituality maybe as well. And essentially, how can certain horror films be used as examples for us learning valuable lessons in life and things that we can, sort of use to make our lives better? So they both come from sort of different expertise. Each chapter looks at a certain movie, and we get sort of an analysis of that movie, and then we get sort of like practical practice at the end. Like, what's the praxis for this? How can we maybe bring the lessons into our lives through things like meditation or, positive thinking and journaling, that sort of thing. So it was interesting. I wasn't quite sure. I think in my various things like pagan studies that I've been doing over the past, maybe 2 years, I feel like I'm more receptive or understanding of what this is trying to get to, because I have been looking at things like personalized ritual and like guided meditations and stuff like that. So I can see a little bit more the value of the things that they're discussing here. And I think it's an interesting window into that world. Rather than the old saying, like a wolf in sheep's clothing, I feel like this is like a sheep in wolf's clothing. A way to get horror fans who, maybe at least stereotypically would not be as receptive to, kind of touchy-feely, let's have positive thoughts right now, when they're watching, people being disemboweled on the screen. But again, that's probably more of just an unfair stereotype, right? I'm a lifelong horror fan. I'm perfectly capable of thinking positively, and having positive rituals in my life. But I think that's kind of what this is getting at. It's in some ways a defense of the art form, showing that no, there are positive things that could be brought from it, and then, a way to kind of give horror fans a window into the world of self-help and, positive mental health, that sort of thing. The movies that they look at, let's see, we've got Nightmare on Elm Street, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, It, The Exorcist, Return of the Living Dead, Jaws, Candyman, The Thing, Predator, Hellraiser, Friday the 13th, Halloween, Carrie. So yeah, most of the analysis I agree with. There are a few that I'm like, I wasn't entirely on the same page as what their interpretations were, especially something like The Exorcist. Sometimes it does feel like it's a little bit of a stretch, them trying to take the horror film and the lesson that could be brought from it. It doesn't feel like the natural lesson maybe that we would get from a movie like that, but I applaud the effort anyway. And, again, if somebody's interested in that sort of thing, if you're a horror fan and you want, more things like positive, positive mental health, if you want a first step into that, or just another way to get around it with one of your favorite, forms of art, I would check this out. And then, I just recently finished this. Heavier Than Heaven, a biography of Kurt Cobain by Charles R. Cross. And I've had this for years. My wife had gotten this for me as a gift many years ago. And this is one of those ones that I definitely had to get to. I promised myself that I would get to this within at least 3 months. And I actually got to it earlier than I thought I was going to. And this is exactly what it says, biography of Kurt Cobain. It's very well done. It appears to be well documented. He looks like he talked to a lot of people for this. And it's a very, in the end, depressing, as you would imagine, a downward spiral, a self-destruction of somebody who was, incredibly gifted. It was nice because So Kurt Cobain's suicide was a core memory for me. I was 12 going on 13 when it happened. Because I remember seeing it like on MTV News and calling up my friend and saying like, "Oh, did you hear the news?" So I remember it pretty vividly because we were always listening to Nirvana, we were listening to grunge and alternative, all the time. And so that was a big kind of big moment in my development as a young person, having this kind of news. It was probably the first celebrity that I really knew that died, especially in that way. And there were certainly a lot of things going on because I watched a lot of MTV growing up as well, that this gave me more context for. And also a lot of performances that I've seen of Nirvana throughout the years, on YouTube and online. And this gave me more context for some of those things that I saw, the antics, like why Kurt is, at one concert wheeled out in a wheelchair with like a hospital gown. He just kind of falls down dead. I now have context for that sort of thing. There's certain things like that I have these memories of seeing these types of performances, but now like I understand them way better. So this is pretty well done. Like I said, it's depressing. It's really tragic seeing the horrible self-destructive path that Kurt Cobain took. Somebody who I do think was talented. Like I said, Nirvana was part of my upbringing. It was part of my musical education. When I started listening to my own music and not just kind of like whatever my parents were listening to. Of course, I was at an impressionable age where it was grunge and alternative, and I still listen to that stuff. It's not like I ever said, "Oh, I outgrew it. It's not good anymore." There's some excellent music there, and Cobain was a very good songwriter. He had that unique voice, especially. Like, you would never say he was a beautiful singer, but man, he was a powerful singer. He was an emotional singer. You watch something like, his, the unplugged version of Where'd You Sleep Last Night, the old Leadbelly song. It's amazing. It's really, really well done. You could see he had amazing talent. He had this kind of magnetic quality when he was on stage. But the drugs really did him in. There was the depression, of course, but you can just see just how badly his addiction got and just how it just ended up eating up and destroying everything. If this is a topic that interests you, I definitely recommend this. I thought this was a good window into that world, into Cobain's life. And Cobain wrote copiously in journals, so he uses a lot of his journal entries for over the years. So you get his voice as well in this. So the two that I read, two of them at least, that I read in October, there was Necessary Death, and there was Heavier Than Heaven. If you've read either of these, love your thoughts, and as always, thank you, booktube.